Okay.
Yep.
Good evening. Welcome to our Grants Pass School District Number 7 board meeting. We'd like to welcome all those who are joining via Zoom and also our board members who are here live. We will call our meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if all could rise and join with me. Reciting the pledge. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item on our agenda this evening is communications and presentations. Superintendent Cole, do we have any written communications?
There were a couple of written communications that have been inserted in your packet that came in yesterday and today, just for the board's information.
Okay, thank you. We'd also like to remind everyone that if there is any request to speak to a specific action item or discussion item, you may put your questions in the chat and that will be monitored and we will get to them at the appropriate time.
Yeah, one clarification on that. The chat has a link if you wish to speak to an item on this current board agenda. Please fill out the link in that chat that's being monitored and you will be assigned to speak at that time.
Thank you. Item number 3 on our agenda is our consent agenda. And so we will entertain a motion to approve those. However, I think there's a few amendments.
Yes, the agenda is being recommended to amend due to removal of the pre-termination hearing due to the amount of information and timeliness to get it to the board, as well as additional information we were made aware that is going to be available to the board. So at the end of this meeting, it's requested that the board consider possible special meeting dates in July to hold pre-termination hearings. And the executive session had originally been scheduled for the beginning of the meeting, has been moved to the end of the meeting. And so this is the amended agenda. So when the motion's made to include the motion of the amended agenda.
Okay, well, we will entertain a motion to approve our board agenda for this evening with the modifications. Gary?
The public hearing concerning the operating budget, did I miss the
We
comment?
did miss that. We missed that. Sorry, Director Ely. We did miss that. It's the asterisk at the top, it's not numbered. So we can suspend this meeting and move into public hearing on the budget.
Good catch. Yeah, thanks, Gary.
Good catch.
And that is why Gary's here with us.
That means it.
All right, so we need to close this meeting and open our public hearing? Or
Yeah,
what is the call for that?
Yeah, so basically, motion to suspend this meeting currently, and then just announce the meeting is now open to the public for public hearing concerning the 2021-2022 operating budget.
Okay, so we will suspend our District 7 board meeting for the moment, and we will open up the meeting for a public hearing concerning our operating budget for the 2021-2022.
So Director Bloomquist, we're relying on you if anybody put in the chat that they would like to speak to the proposed operating budget.
So far, nothing on that topic.
We'll give that about 30 seconds and let us know if something does come in, and then we will close the public hearing on the operating budget.
Okay. All right. Well, Director Bloomquist, still no comments about the budget?
Hang on, I've got one that just came in. Nope, not on that topic.
Okay. Seeing and hearing no public comments or concerns regarding the budget, it's been approved, or do we need to vote on the budget?
You'll vote on the budget later in the meeting.
So we'll close our public hearing for the budget and we will reopen our board meeting. Jumping down to our consent agenda, item 3.0, including approval of our board agenda for today with its modifications, approval of our May 6th Budget Committee draft minutes and our approval of our June 8th board draft minutes. Can I entertain a motion to approve?
Member DeLaGrange, so moved.
Thank you. The second,
Second,
thank you. Any further discussion?
I just have a question, and it could be just, I don't have the old agenda in front of us, but there was previously, I believe, an action item to approve the superintendent contract previously. Is that timing moved now?
The timing has been moved. We're not, my understanding is the board is, the subcommittee has not yet had an opportunity to fully vet that process.
So I can do just a brief update. We sent the contract off for review via an outside attorney, Jim Doyle. He and I spoke today. He has finalized a preliminary contract, and that is just received this evening by me, and I have forwarded it out to our two subcommittee members, and we'll have to meet and discuss that here in the next week or two, and then bring it back to the board.
And just to reiterate, because I know that I've got that June 30th date in the back of my mind for when we're supposed to do that by, are we bound to try to get something through by the 30th? Obviously, this is the last board meeting before
So
then.
that's with mutual agreement between the board and the superintendent to move that out to the
Next meeting.
next meeting. The board has already, back in March, approved to move to approval of a contract moving forward. So it's just a matter of agreement between the board and the superintendent to sign off on the contract.
Oh, I thought it was how we were cutting costs.
Jerry likes
So it's
that one.
fine, that it's not gonna be by the 30th.
I'm okay
basically,
with
'cause
that.
both
I've
sides
talked
have agreed.
I've talked to Board Chair Nelson and I'm comfortable with that.
So we are working on it, and that will be done and hopefully vetted by our next board.
Understood.
All right, so if there are no other questions about our consent agenda, we will entertain a motion to, well, let's have a roll call vote. Tanya, it's been moved and seconded.
Member DeLaGrange,
Yes.
Member Durbin,
Yes.
Member Brownell,
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson,
Yes.
Member Wilkins.
Yes.
Member Richardson.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Carries.
Neely's not orange or green.
I think it just when you push it, so not muted, but now it's
It
red.
was green. I
So
think it
no
is.
light is fine and red is mute.
If Todd can hear us well, then the rest of the public can hear us well.
Yep, we can hear you just fine.
Thanks,
It
Todd.
was green. It was green.
All right, item 4.0, our reports. Superintendent's report. Superintendent Cope, school opening update.
Yeah, so really not much new to report. We're anticipating by the end of this week or early next week, we'll be given the skeleton of potential requirements for reopening schools. And where is the teeth behind that? I think there's a lot of unanswered questions from superintendents all over. So I don't have anything to report to the board at this time. We're to get preliminary information, which we have been told is unlikely to change, but will not be finalized until July 22nd. So a long process with a lot of unanswered questions at this point. It was communicated to me that it's not anticipated that the governor will come out with new executive orders regarding schools and reopening. And so I think the Oregon Department of Ed and the Oregon Health Authority are navigating through what that might look like. And then it's a matter of what authority do they have in that regard, I think would be the question the board and the district would have. So more to come.
Board reports and special concerns.
Well, and before we jump into the board, I'm gonna join in with the board here right now and just recognizing Casey Durbin, an outgoing board member for your recent years of service on the board. I can tell you as a superintendent, it's been a pleasure to work with you. I hope there are opportunities in the future where you can be a part of Grants Pass School District 7. Your time here has been very meaningful for me and our district as a whole. And so on behalf of the board and district, we got a gift you can open.
Ooh,
And
thank you.
flowers, Tanya?
Those are from,
Gary.
well, Cassie.
From everybody.
They're gonna point fingers. It's from the board.
It's from the board.
Thank you very, very much, everybody. Do I have to open this in front of everybody?
Yeah, they gotta see what they got you.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, please show us.
Okay.
Spoke like a true dad.
Yeah. I'm going to leave the card reading for private time. This is like some food gift card, so I don't get angry all the time, although appropriate.
Look how easy that is.
I'm not even gonna comment.
Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Is this so I can take notes on your guys' meetings from the other side of the Zoom? Wow, this is a leather-bound journal with my own hit. This is amazing. Oh, thank you guys. Holy cow.
That's cool.
Very cool. Are you a little bit jealous? You want to get voted out next time so you can. Thank you very, very much, everybody. Oh, that's amazing. I think I'll take now just to say it's been an honor and privilege working with all of you. It's definitely unprecedented times that we find ourselves in. And I definitely wish you all fortitude and perseverance and resiliency, all those things we wish our kids to have. It's time for us to show the same and keep doing the good work that you don't get thanked enough for doing, because it is a lot of work, it's a lot of hours, and you mostly get criticism and not thankfulness and gratitude. So best of luck. I'm still here in town. Don't be a stranger. But thank you. I've really enjoyed my time on the board, so thank you.
See you walking around in a stocking cap and headphones.
Headphones and a backpack, walking around in my New Balance shoes.
Because you have nothing else to do.
They start peeking in through Sherry's window to see if she's in there. Yeah, that's me.
Well, we're very grateful for Casey. Thank you.
Thank
It's been an honor to serve with you, and I know I've always appreciated your very thoughtful approach to all of the topics that we've had. We will miss you on the board, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, any other agenda items from the board? Any special concerns?
Kind of hot.
Okay. So we're gonna move on then to 5.0, our action item. So we'll start with 5.1.1, our electric bus.
Yeah, so this is put on as an action item and ultimately at the request of the board to dig in and get further information. I have Director Ely on standby with the conversations that she's had, speaking with other districts and different opportunities that are out there. So Director Ely, I'm gonna let you speak to the information that you have regarding the potential for electric school buses. And Todd, I think you'll need to unmute Sherry.
Yep, she should have just gotten that message now. Still can't do it.
Alrighty, thanks, Todd. So after our last meeting, Member DeLaGrange had asked that we look into the grant agreement from Pacific Power that we had been awarded back in, I think it was early 2020, if I recall. So I contacted PP&L and they said that the grant is still available if we're interested in purchasing an electric bus and installing the infrastructure for that bus. And so I actually had a meeting with two representatives from PP&L, our local rep, and then a rep up in the Portland area, just to talk about kind of the logistics around mainly the infrastructure portion of it, and then some of the maintenance concerns that we have had regarding purchasing an electric bus. And so it was a really good discussion. And I know that PP&L is really hoping that they can get more businesses in Oregon to invest in electric vehicle, like fleet maintenance and that kind of thing. And so a couple of concerns that they shared is that they said that they know that maintenance is one of the big concerns. There have been a couple of locations in the state that have purchased the buses, and that's one of their main issues is maintenance. And then they said they also know that infrastructure in the state is a big concern. Oregon is not at the top of the heap when it comes to kind of some of the clean fuels and electric technology out there. And so that is a concern even from PPNL. And they said another concern that they're hearing is the reliability of the vehicles. And so I asked our transportation supervisor, Jeremy Carnes, if he would reach out to any school districts in Oregon that have purchased an electric bus or multiple buses and see what their experience has been. So he actually had a conversation with Beaverton. And so I think Jeremy is on our meeting today, as is one of our head maintenance guys, Randy. And so Jeremy, if you're there, if you could share your conversation that you had with Beaverton and just some of the issues that you guys have researched on this topic.
Yeah, so I spoke with Craig Beaver, who is the director of Beaverton, and they have 2 electric vehicles that they're currently using. They're running about 67 to 70 miles a day. They have had them about 6 months. One of the vehicles was down for 6 weeks recently. It was throwing a code saying that the battery was overheating. It wasn't really overheating, but for some reason it was throwing a code and not allowing the vehicle to function. Luckily, they have a maintenance place from Cummins Electric, or Cummins Diesel, I guess, is the ones that are working on it, close by. Randy did some research earlier, and he said that the closest one that we have is relatively right around the Salem area. There is another vehicle that their other vehicle is currently in the shop. It's been there for 2 weeks, and they were waiting for a hopeful part to come today to get it back on the road. He said that it's been wonderful when it works, but it's intermittent when that happens. So it was a significant cost for him. It looked like it was $150,000 for their upgrade to their electrical grid stuff to be able to run the buses they want to run. His plan is to run about 8 sometime in the future. He just wanted to get ahead of the game. He was willing to answer any questions that we have going forward. I also spoke to an Allison Wiley, who is a part of the electricschoolbus.org. I asked her a bunch of questions. Most of them she said she would get back to me on, and I have not heard answers on those. Those are kind of the main things that I got from the whole conversation with all these people.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Mhm.
I know we've talked about this this bus before. We had brought it to the board actually quite a while ago and talked about just the feasibility of having an electric vehicle like this in our fleet. And I have to be super honest with you guys. I just can't recommend that we go forward with this right now just because of the cost of an electric bus, which is about 350 to 400,000. And I know the 190,000, takes a big chunk out of that. But then we also have the infrastructure that we have to install, and then just the unreliability. And it bothered me that PPNL had as many concerns as they did when I was talking with them. And so, not that it's something that we want to, not ever revisit again. We definitely do. I would just feel better if there was more, like if there were more folks in Oregon who actually had these and there was better reliability. And so that's kind of where I'm at with it. And I think Jeremy was feeling much the same that I am as well. We don't have the staff that could do the maintenance on the buses. And like he said, if we did have a major issue, we would have to probably ship it up to Salem or someplace like that. So that's kind of where we're at. I think I'll throw it back to Kirk for any comments that he has about it also.
Okay, thank you, Sherry and Jeremy. So again, this is on the agenda, not as a recommendation by the board here or by the administration. So Sherry did correctly represent administration in that we are not necessarily recommending approval of this, but it was placed on here as an action item because the board had high levels of interest that we dig this up and do updated research on this information. But the funds are still available, as you see before you.
So is it, 350 to 400 for just the bus?
Just the
And then
bus.
the charging station infrastructure would be on
Another
top,
150.
another 150, that would be a percent there. And the 190 would obviously could go toward either, right?
I believe either, correct, Sherry?
Yep.
Bus and supporting charging.
Yeah.
So Sherry, could you review for me the, how our reimbursement for transportation expenditures work? Like if we use the grant for the charging station and not for the bus, does that change how much we're reimbursed? Or how
No.
does that work?
No, we would still get if we purchased an electric bus, we would still get the same depreciation on that bus that we do on our propane and our diesel buses. And so we have to pay for the buses up front, and then we get 10% reimbursement per year for 10 years. And so that would be the same regardless of what kind of a bus we purchase.
Right, but I guess my question was, is it only for buses, or like would the infrastructure also be underneath that reimbursement?
Under the depreciation, yes. I believe so, Gary. I would have to check on that. I know that when we built the new transportation facility, that we have been getting the depreciation on that, so the 10% per year on that. And so I would imagine it's the same for the charging station, but I would have to confirm that.
Okay, so there was one thing that you mentioned. You said 10% a year for 10 years. That'd be 100%. Some kind of way I thought it was only 70.
No, 70% is on the operation of the transportation department. And so that's separate from the depreciation that we receive on the vehicles. So we get 70% reimbursement for like the wages that we pay, the supplies that we purchase, and that kind of thing.
But we get 100% over 10 years for any vehicle purchases?
Yes. And that's what I put back into the bus replacement fund, and that's what's funding our debt service for the buses that we're currently replacing, because as you know, we have to have them turned over by 2025. And so that's what funds that.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, I would assume that electric bus would have some sort of warranty, so we wouldn't have necessarily additional cost if there was maintenance. It would just be more inconvenience and logistical issue, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
6 weeks is a heck of a
Sherry and Jeremy, one question that I would have is what type of infrastructure we need in the district motor pool from a mechanical standpoint to take care of the buses? I'm assuming we have a mechanic that takes care of our buses now. What type of expertise does somebody have to take care of a electric bus, and what does that look like for the district?
So what I was told was that if we were to go with the Bluebird version, everything else besides the motor and batteries is the same as every other bus we have. The motor and batteries would actually require an electrician, a certified electrician, to be able to work on them.
So do we have somebody like that, or would we have to hire someone to take care of that, assuming that the fleet expands into something like that?
We would
That's
have to hire.
Yes.
I believe part of the agreement was that Pacific Power would train somebody. Is that, am I remembering that correctly? So there was some sort of, they would offer training for staff to be able to do maintenance.
Can we take the 190,000 and just put in the charging station and get our people trained so that down the road we can line the bus? Or
Well,
Wait till somebody else. has one.
while we're looking on that training piece, I'm gonna just go ahead and say that 150,000 for charging infrastructure is not applicable in our case. I don't know what Beaverton's doing. It sounds like their plan is to get a lot more of these buses, and maybe their charging infrastructure plan will cost $150,000. But to put in a charger for a single bus, I guarantee you it's not anywhere close to $150,000. It's probably closer to $10,000 or $20,000. And I speak from experience on that. So if the administration is going to say it's 150, they're going to have to back that up.
I would agree with you, Brian, that it's probably going to be 10 to 20 if we're just going to do one bus. If we're going to, invest $400,000 in one bus, then yeah, it would just be the one charging station that we would need.
But it's only going to end up costing us about 160, and we're also going to get reimbursed for that total 160. So the cost of the bus is immaterial, isn't it?
Is the
Well,
plan
there's
to
a capital
expand?
outlay up front because it takes you 10 years to get that money back.
But my
Which we
additional
can
question
shoulder.
would be, does the grant affect how much you can depreciate, or can you still depreciate the full 400,000?
I don't know, but what's the time value of money?
But I think it's worthwhile if we can still depreciate the full cost of the bus and the grant is separate, we don't have to discount that. That would actually be coming out 150,000 ahead. Not that I love the idea of putting out that much capital up front for something that could potentially be out of commission for 6 weeks. That part kind of makes me nervous for access to, we already see it in other industries down here. There's just a lack of support services to get just regular cars worked on right now. And so my concern is spending that money now before we've got a sufficient workforce to service it. But I'd be curious to see what the training component is of that, because if there is a piece of that where we could get our own staff trained to address some of those issues, although it never goes as smooth as they say, oh yeah, we'll just give you some training and they can totally fix it. But definitely is worth considering.
Well, so, I mean, the big deal with the electric bus is supposed to be how much you get to save on maintenance and operating costs. So if Bluebird or whoever it is wants to sell us the bus, then
Todd is just asking that we speak a little closer to the microphone. We were
it's so good last time.
Make it good.
just put it in front of Gary, because he
Yeah.
always speaks softly.
Okay.
So we have a performance contract for our HVAC systems. So you could possibly execute the contract for the bus that is a performance contract. If the bus doesn't perform, then they don't get paid.
Are we gonna do one?
Well, and the fact that we have a fleet of 50-ish buses, if the electric bus does happen to go down for 6 weeks, it's not like the district's going to fall apart. I think we have enough buses that if it did go down, we would just take another bus and replace it for the time being. So I don't see that necessarily as super critical to this decision, although it is a factor.
So Brian, is your thought process that we would, because we just have replaced our whole fleet, so would it be that we would slowly
Or still,
be gaining, we would buy more of the electric buses that worked out? So this
well,
is
if
a
they worked
trial?
out, that would be the plan. I think this one would be kind of like a pilot project for us. And we see how it goes and see how it works. And if it goes well, then we could consider getting more. And if it doesn't go well, then we probably wouldn't get more. But without having the test case to see, by the time we get the data, we'll have replaced most of the buses anyway. So the timeline to do it seems like it's good now.
And I would agree with that. I wouldn't do a test case and then decide, well, we don't like it, we're not going to do it. I think ultimately we will all be going to an electric system. That is the whole goal. I don't know that I would say, let's just do one and see how it goes. I think ultimately we're looking at, do we have an infrastructure to support that, and can we continue to build upon that? And I think right now the answer in Southern Oregon is no, but I think that the answer is hopefully within the next few years we will have infrastructure to support that, because that's where we want to be in 10 years. Have a fleet of all electric buses and have 2 or 3 that are gas powered, they can travel to Klamath. But that's how I would look at this. Is I would agree with Sherry, not yet, but I think that needs to be part of our topics moving forward, and that ultimately the goal would be to support something like that once the infrastructure.
So the infrastructure piece is on us. We don't have to wait for that.
We don't have, if it breaks, we have to send it to Salem.
But if it breaks, we have 49 other buses and we're going to be all right.
Yeah, but I would prefer to not have to send it to Salem. how do we get it up there? We have to put it on another car and
Well, that's true, but one anecdotal case of a bus going down should not be so weighted in our decision. I mean, that is third hand.
well, well, but that's their experience. That is their test case, right? So that's what they're seeing. So I
100%
would,
of their electric vehicles have been down. But I do think that we're in an interesting, I do think it's an interesting funding situation where I feel like in years past, we never would have considered a capital outlay like this, but, I think that if the goal is that somebody's got to be first, I think I'm still leaning towards the side of going with the administration's recommendation, but now it's just not the time, but I do think keeping an open mind to, if we've got the funding and we want this to be the reality in 10 years, then we've got to take our first step at some point. And if there is training available to get our own mechanics up to speed to be able to handle some of those issues, it would be odd that Beaverton wouldn't have that own capability and training available to their own mechanics to fix those issues. So that doesn't seem to add up for me that Pacific Power offers a training that's sufficient to cover those issues. So
Sherry, has Pacific Power indicated that this would be moving forward, that the grant would still be available?
We'll continue to have the grant program, and so we will have the opportunity to apply again. And I know that there are other organizations out there that offer grant funding for these type of vehicles, and so it's not something that I feel like if we don't do it now, we're never going to be able to do it. I think it's always going to be an opportunity, especially with there being such a push to go electric on so many different fronts. And so I do feel like that they're going to continue with the grants just to hopefully continue with getting this type of technology out there in especially all over the US.
Can we postpone it and explore the idea of a performance contract?
We can definitely explore that. That's not something I've ever heard of on a bus purchase, but I can sure look into that.
would the reimbursement still be there though? Or we still get the depreciation?
We will always get depreciation on the purchase of buses.
But if it's a performance contract and not an asset purchase. Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds. Sherry can look into it and figure out if it's even plausible, and then we could look into the teeth of that, but I digress.
I mean, they're the ones saying it's got all these benefits, or it's got all these benefits.
Prove
on a
it.
Contract that says we'll deliver.
Worth asking. for
Is
sure.
the $50,000 still available from the VW settlement?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can also use the VW money for our propane buses too. That's not just specifically for electric buses.
Is that per bus or in total?
That is in total for us.
Oh, well, originally, when we talked about this, there's 190,000 from Pacific Power, and then there's also another 50,000. I think it's through the state or something regarding the settlement from Volkswagen with something. So there's a total of 240,000 available. So
okay, well, this is an action item, so
So Gary can be.
So from what I understand, we're going to seek some more clarity over a performance contract and maybe come back to the board. Is that
I agree.
agreeable?
Where are you, Debbie?
I don't think this is the right time. And I believe Sherry when she says it doesn't pencil out. And I've been reviewing the Pacific Power grant agreement. I don't see anything about money going to training someone. I see something that says you have to utilize a contractor license in the state where the project will be installed and conform to all electrical codes and utility connection requirements. There's also, we have to provide education and outreach requirements. I believe that transportation and business will keep this in the hopper for future consideration, but I don't want to have to talk about it again like now.
Is that a motion?
No, I don't want to make any motion. I want it to go
I was asking
away.
her for her thoughts.
Well, I'll speak from my experience having an electric car, and I know Debbie also has an electric car. And I know it's not the same as an electric bus, but, you know, they work on the same principles. Extremely reliable.
We're writing down things for the next visit of our technician. as we speak.
Oh, you should have got this on there. But overall, extremely reliable, minimal maintenance. You know, and one anecdotal report of service needed on a bus. So,
And it's the only district in the state that has electric buses, and we have two. And so it's the only report available directly from the transportation director of that district. If we do this, we can be in the news tomorrow.
if we don't do this, we can be in the news some more.
Well, it's got a coin, let's toss. So what do we gotta do with an action item? Is it supposed to be, we're waiting to see if a motion is put forward on the action item, or?
Is there a motion for this? We'll then move on.
Motion either way.
I move that we explore doing a performance contract for purchase of an electric bus.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Tanya, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Member Delagrange,
Yes.
Member Durbin? No. Member Brownell,
No,
Board Chair Nelson,
No.
Member Wilkins? No. Member Richardson?
Yes.
Could have had a tie.
Okay.
That's right.
The motion does not carry. Thank you. We will go on to 5.1.2, approval of stats textbook.
So this is the statistics textbook that was presented to the board last time. It's been available for review, has been vetted by Parent Advisory Council. And so it's before you for approval this evening.
I move for the approval of the statistics textbook that presented.
I'll second.
Great. And moved and seconded. Do we have any further discussion on the stats textbook? Gary? I saw you took it home with you.
Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
That in the minutes, none.
Don't write that. All right, hearing no further concerns or conversation, we have a roll call vote.
Member Delagrange,
Yes.
Member Durbin? Yes. Member Brownell,
Yes,
Board Chair Nelson?
Yes.
Member Wilkins? Yes. Member Richardson?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. 5.1.3, resolution 2021. -16 appropriations transfer year end for 2021, 2020 and 2021 budget.
So I'll defer further comments to Director Ely on this, but this is basically cleaning up the books for the fiscal year 2021, moving dollars from contingency to some of those are ESSER funds that we have to give proportionate share to private schools. And then we have capital outlay, basically of 1.5 million, I believe. Sherry, would that be the funds borrowed to do the improvements? Nope.
No,
Nope.
these are all ESSER funds.
They're all ESSER.
So this is for the addition at North and South that we had budgeted, that we were going to do out of the ESSER funds that we talked about last year's budget. And then the state said that we had to allocate a portion of that to our private schools. And so this is the amount that was allocated to them. And then the amounts allocated toward the two projects at North and South.
is it normal for us to give money to private schools?
Yeah, those are
Yes.
federal,
Yeah.
those are federal dollars. And so whenever we get title dollars, they get a proportionate share of dollars that's funded through the resident school district to the private schools in that location of that district.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve. There's no other question.
Sherry, Sherry?
Yep.
I know this is a broken record. I keep asking, and you keep saying yes, but I sent in an email checking on the air quality systems for every building that anybody works in, and I'm just looking to make sure that we're covering all that this
Yep.
year.
We still are.
Okay, thank you.
Every building. Is that part of
Any
this?
place somebody
Not
works.
even the warehouse.
Yeah.
Wow.
I want a Staples Easy button that just plays that whenever you press it, so you don't have to keep saying it. Just push the-
Yeah, once the budget's adopted, I'm stuck, right?
All right, do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
Is Member Durbin so moved?
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Member Wilkins, second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Tony, we have a roll call vote, please.
Member DeLaGrange,
Yes.
Member Durbin.
Yes.
Member Brownell,
Yes,
Board Chair Nelson.
Yes.
Member Wilkins,
Yes.
Member Richardson.
Thank you. 5.1.4, Resolution 2021-15, adoption of the GPSD7 budget for 2021-2022. We've all heard it. Jerry, any other comments about the budget? We've talked about it.
No other comments. I shared with the budget committee, and which the board is part of that, the changes that are affecting what you are about to adopt compared to what was approved, which was an allocation of the additional funding from ODE for the funding level coming in from 9.1 to 9.3. And so that document showed where those changes were going, and then also including the allocation for additional supply budgets at the elementary schools, as we discussed with the budget committee, so that parents don't have to go out and purchase all the supplies anymore. We'll be able to do that at the schools and hopefully have better purchasing powers doing that through our own warehouse department. So nothing dramatic. We're still on target to do our meeting probably late July, early August, to actually talk about where we're going to appropriate the that large amount of ESSER funding that we have still sitting out there. And so that still is all sitting in contingency.
Is this our largest budget ever?
Yep.
Is that budget meeting in July going to be a one and done, or is there going to be back and forth with the budget committee before that meeting, or is it going to be a set of meetings?
It will probably be a set of meetings, Brian. I am envisioning that this is going to be similar to what we had to do for the student investment account. One of the provisions of that funding is that we engage more stakeholders in the community. So I see it being a series of meetings.
Okay. Any other questions for Sherry? And we will entertain a motion to approve.
Member Durbin, so moved.
Do you have a second?
Member Wilkins, second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Tony, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Member Durbin? Yes. All right. Member DeLaGrange,
Yes.
Member Brownell,
yes,
Board Chair Nelson,
Yes.
Member Wilkins,
Yes.
Member Richardson.
Yes.
All right, thank you. The motion carries. Next is approval of our 2021-2022 administrative, supervisory, and confidential salary schedules with authorization for contract issuance.
So if there's any questions, this is an annual review by the board of the recommended salary ranges, and then as superintendent, I determine the placements within these ranges for each respective supervisor, administrator, or confidential staff member. Upon review and comparison, doing a regional comparison, what was significantly noted was that our director positions and our building administrator positions Because our staff picked up their own 6%, we lagged considerably as compared to other school districts in those respective positions. And so my recommendation was to put us at the median range of those salaries, and that's what this reflects.
So how come there's no
Previous.
district office?
That's confidential staff.
Okay.
So that includes Tanya and the payroll personnel department, the admin assistants.
I think it'd be good, Debbie, if you explain the history behind how we found this. If you want, I can attempt it.
Or he gets tempted, you can correct him.
That's works.
That's my best.
So we used to have some kind of a chart step thingy, and it was difficult to figure out where to put people. And it kind of tied the superintendent's hands as to where people wound up. So sometime before Kirk showed up, the board adopted the method where we picked a range for a position, and that allows the superintendent, based on performance, to incentivize people within that range. And so that's why we have ranges instead of some kind of chart stepping.
I think you did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
A little history.
So I just have one comment about salary studies, and I'm sure most of you probably already know this, but I'm new and I just learned this. So when you look at other salaries in the area for whatever the position is, and then you're at the low end, and then you want to get to the median, you raise the median for everybody. So there's this salary creep that happens because when you're at the bottom, you raise it, and then no one wants to be at the bottom, so everyone's constantly raising it. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. I'm not saying that the salary studies are not valuable, but they do tend to, lead to an inclination of upward creep of salaries, maybe more so than is necessary.
I also want to add that we've been poached on numerous occasions of individuals in these different categories. Administrators are very difficult to find right now. And definitely the confidential, we've had multiple staff members leave us to go to Three Rivers. So finding people like a transportation supervisor is a very specialist type of food services is a very specialist type of position. And so finding people with the qualities right now to fill any job, actually not just school job, you're right, but wanting to ensure we're competitive and so we can attract people.
So this range, are they all based on the salary survey, or was there some percentage increase?
So essentially, the percentage increase for the administrator ranges is approximately 6%, because that was duly noted in where we were lagging. Our salaries were comparable when you just looked at the monetary amount, but other districts are picking up the 6% of the PERS, and so essentially to get us there. And the way I discovered this really was first glance, the hiring a new director that's coming on board next year, and where they were paid on a director schedule in a district much smaller than ours, and how much lagging we were because their district did pick up 6%. And so getting us at least comparable to one of these smaller districts, but then looking at other districts larger, such as Medford, smaller, such as Ashland, Eagle Point, Central Point, et cetera. So looking at districts in Southern Oregon primarily. And then I sent board chair a COSA salary study that is conducted every year of comparable sized districts in the different positions. So that's also available out there if any other board member wants to see that. I can share that as well. So, go ahead.
another history piece for the newer board members. In our district, they're talking about the 6% pickup. So that's a conscious choice by us in District 7 because we have our employees pay 6% to their retirement fund. Technically, if you do the math, it would be to the advantage of the district not do that. The way it works out, having to do with Social Security taxes and some other stuff. But because of our constituency here and how they do things, we think it prudent to have our employees pay that 6%. So that's why you'll find District 7 is one of the few in the state that has its employees do that compared to other districts. How'd I do that?
Doing great, Eric.
Just remember the president is locked in because they can't hear.
You're welcome. Welcome to stay. You can show proof of vaccine. You don't even have to wear that thing in your face.
I didn't bring it, but I'm happy to wear the mask.
Great. Great. We'll find you a chair here in a little bit.
Plenty of room over here.
All right, thank you.
I move that we approve the 21-22 administrative supervisory and confidential salary schedules authorization for contract negotiations.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Member Durbin, I second.
Any further discussion? Tanya, we have a roll call vote, please.
Member LaGrange,
Yes.
Member Durbin. Yes. Member Brownell,
Yes,
or Chair Nelson,
Yes.
Member Wilkins.
Yes.
Member Richardson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That ends our action items. Our agenda 6.0, future meeting dates and suggested agenda items. So our next board meeting with our annual reorganizational event is on July 13th, and that will be at 5 p.m. Do we have?
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we are looking to schedule 2 separate special session board meetings for pre-termination hearings. The week of that board meeting, so July 13th is a Tuesday. I think Dr. Nelson, you have conflicts on Wednesday, so on Thursday and or Friday to schedule 2 separate sessions, special board meetings for those sessions. And so we're asking, that's the availability of legal counsel, combination of availability of everybody involved. And so we're looking to schedule those at this time.
Do we get paid triple after?
Do you?
Triple your
Yes, you
salary.
do.
Absolutely.
Triple weight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll even chip in towards it.
Do they have to be on separate days?
No, they can both be on the same day. If the board would want to choose to start earlier on, Thursday or Friday of that week, then we can schedule back to back and we'll allot enough time. Legal counsel has outlined a process that we can define clearly, pretty much define the length of that meeting. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, yes, and there we go.
Yeah, you would have that process at the thing. I would estimate about an hour and a half at the most for each meeting. Is that fair? That's probably more than generous.
I think that's what Nancy estimated.
So, I think that
I'd rather have Thursday than Friday.
Thursday, I hear a Thursday. Would the board be amenable to starting a little earlier?
Yeah.
2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm throwing numbers out there.
Noon, 11, 9, sure.
As long as I have a month or so notice, I can arrange my schedule.
And Nancy said she's not available till the afternoon.
Yeah, she's available she's in Roseburg in the morning. And so I think we could start as early as 2, 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I believe so. 2 o'clock.
Whatever's available, yes, I'll make it work.
2 o'clock
Thursday.
on Thursday, the 15th.
I don't have my outlet, so it means that I got.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
And both of those meetings will be public meetings, not available for public comment because of the nature of the meetings. I'll let legal counsel explain that.
All right, well, if that works, then we can add that to our future meeting date. That would be July 15th, starting at 3 p.m. Then our next board meeting after that will be July 27th at 5 p.m. Okay, with that, then we will wrap up our this portion of our board meeting. We thank all for attendance. We will enter into our executive session here in about 5 minutes.
So they're having a really hard time.
All right, welcome. We will reconvene our regular session.
Continue, Tanya. We got to continue before.
Take two.
All right, here we go.
All right, welcome back. We will continue our board meeting. We have a few action items to attend to. Our first item is 10.1.1, approval of certified contract reopener. We will entertain a motion to approve.
This is Member Durbin, so moved.
Thank you. Do we have a
Member
second?
Brownell, second.
Moved and seconded. Any further comments or discussion? All right, Tanya, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Member DeLaGrange,
Yes.
Member Durbin,
Yes.
Member Brownell,
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson,
Yes.
Member Wilkins,
Yes.
Member Richardson.
I'm gonna put I. All of the policy says yes.
Yes. I
All
think
right,
of you every
motion
time it
carries.
says aye.
Thank you. Do we have, while we're waiting for confirmation, I would like to announce to the board that I just received an email congratulating our school board for being selected for the 2021-2022 Diane Esioff Memorial Scholarship Program.
Oh, yay!
Committed to a minimum of 18 hours of professional development for your school board and superintendent. So we will be setting up
Brian,
those
I didn't hear
meetings
your yay. Good
in the
job.
near future. That is a $5,000 scholarship, which we can use for scholarships for our students here in this upcoming year. So congratulations, we're excited about that.
Thank you, Scott, for doing the legwork on that. That was awesome.
And what appropriate timing to have the email come through for us. Lastly, has he responded? Or?
I don't have his contact info just offhand on my phone.
So I move that we schedule a special board.
What we can do,
Okay.
what we can do is just make a motion that we schedule a special meeting early in November to swear in an incoming board member.
July,
July,
not November.
Sorry, I have November on the line. For July, and then we will, Tanya and I will work with him and this board to find a time to set up a public Zoom meeting for that session, and we'll communicate that out and provide public notice of that meeting. So we don't have to nail down the time right now, just motion that we have a special meeting set up in early July, late next week.
I move that we set up a special meeting time for the new board to meet to swear in the new board member in early July. And we'll figure out what that time is ASAP.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Donnie, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Member DeLaGrange,
Yes.
Member Durbin,
Yes.
Member Brownell,
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson,
Yes.
Member Wilkins,
Yes.
Member Richardson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The motion carries. Todd, I believe we had 4 people who had requested to speak to an agenda item that has passed, and we would invite them to submit in writing via email to the district their comments, and we will certainly look at those. And that will be provided to the entire board.
Yep, and I tried to communicate to that in the chat to them directly, and they were actually on agenda items that were either in the previously published meeting that was adjusted, or just different topics, so.
Can we make it standard practice to get the chat logs sent out to the board after the meetings? Or is that?
So right now, the only chat log is between Todd as the meeting facilitator and individuals. It isn't a wide open public forum for people to just throw into chat. We would never operate in-person board meetings that way, that people could just lob things from the audience. And so we've now created Zoom in the same manner we would function with an in-person board meeting, with a meeting of the board.
In previous meetings, I've seen comments pop up on the screen. Though,
We
so
we have
changed that now.
we changed that.
Okay.
Yeah, we've changed that because a lot of it was inappropriate and comments not related to the board agenda itself.
I see.
Okay. With that, we will close our meeting. Thank you everyone for your attendance, and we will see you on early July for a Zoom meeting to bring in our new board member in. So we'll adjourn our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.